Frieren isn't about the action or the big, important stuff. It's about the small, quiet moments where nothing really happens. It's in these quiet moments where a special type of world and character building happens. It's an adventure story, a journey to reach an actual destination, but as one about adventurers who are in no particular hurry to do much other than eat giant hamburgers. It's alright, the audience will all wait, got plenty of time. It's these calmer moments, I mean not specifically the hamburgers, where the best world building is done. Frieren isn't quite slice of life, but I don't think I'm alone in really enjoying those calmer parts more. The space in between the arcs, the periods where nothing happens. In fiction there are magic tricks. There are tricks like camera tricks, sure, but in writing there are some too. And in Frieren, the episodes where nothing happens, a quiet few chapters in a cabin, they're a trick of their own. They reframe the whole adventure. They build out the characters into real people and show us how the world functions, while feeling like small talk amidst a slice-of-life montage. It's magic. Frieren can be roughly broken down into the larger, more story or plot arcs like Aura the Guillotine. These are big action set pieces. They often advance the actual plot line. And then we get the cool off, the traveling arcs. They come next, even if the gap between them gets longer sometimes. They're why it can strike a balance between adventure and something simpler. The best example in the early half is the travels after Aura, or the Frieren arc where nothing pretty much actually really happens. Seriously, it's like 6 months of just hanging out. There's 2 conversations. But if we're talking about world building, what 2 conversations? These quiet moments are how you get to know everyone a little better, get to know the world, make the plot arcs work. It builds the world, it builds the characters, it's a microcosm of everything Frieren does well. I don't think I'm alone in finding Frieren's quieter moments its most powerful. What makes these moments work? Frieren is at the end of a big plot arc with stakes and progress on that grand journey, but then a slice-of-life moment comes and can take over entirely. It's done for an important reason: character growth, world building. Most slice-of-life shows are built around deeper character growth, and while Frieren isn't a slice-of-life show, this also happens to be one of Frieren's strengths. It's not really enough to see how a character reacts to a crisis. We can't know how the events have affected them until we see them back to normal, returned to their normal life with something changed from the way it was before. And for Frieren and the party, this kind of stuff is their normal life. I'm jealous. It really does look quite relaxing, don't you think? In this series, most of these quieter arcs are focused on the journey. There are segments where the party is just progressing onwards, however slowly, being distracted along the way. The best example in the first season is the gap between the Aura arc and the first class mage exams. These moments don't just build character, they're key for world building too. There are loads of ways to do world building, and a lot of the time Frieren avoids the broad exposition data dumps. It's a quieter world building. The slice of life traveling montages in Frieren are some of the most important for this kind of world building. They're a particularly good example of why the approach in Frieren has resonated so much. It's down to the adventure format and Frieren's specific approach to it. I want to go into a kind of overly granular detail of these few examples and talk about why they're impressive and what this quiet world building is. The travel north section begins right after the Aura fight with some nice lingering around the town. After the demons, well, after they're finished, we get a bit of an extended outro. Partly we're settling the arc that's just finished, like letting food digest, but in this kind of slower, quieter way. Almost immediately afterwards, Frieren is discussing the battle with Stark and Fern, which includes a Himmel story, but amazingly, we get no flashback this time. It's just the story. Instead, she's just letting us know that she's picked that up from Himmel, that she might occasionally need to acknowledge when these two do something right. Throw some praise occasionally. It's a quick show of her development so far. Even before we leave town, there's a closing conversation where Frieren chooses a grimoire for a reward. It's more significant than just a nod to her hoarding. It's a fake one from Flammy, which she knows isn't real but collects all the same. In the action parts, we see flashbacks to Flammy, but it's in these smaller moments where we actually see this development for Frieren. How these flashbacks have affected her outside of perfecting murdering demons. We know compared to Himmel, she's processed this human's death a little better. Through collecting the fake grimoires, she's completely aware of her place in history and mythology. It's a nice rounder to the flashbacks of her being taught mana suppression. Builds the worlds, builds the characters more, and all of an assume that's entertaining on the surface too. A faster paced series would have moved on here, but they get the offer to spend a day in town, and really, where's the harm in lingering and actually enjoying what was accomplished in the last arc, in seeing the consequences? We get to see the impact of this fight because we get to spend the extra time here to see the party actually enjoy the place they've helped to save. It sets us up to actually wallow in the world. The action sequences without news just aren't as impactful. These are just nice montage shots of them talking in town, but they're taking the time to stress what the battle was for. These giant hamburgers. That's what it was all for. I mean, let's face it, these sections have some beautiful drawings. The montages always are, but it's actually taking the time to stress why we did that arc. Before we leave, we even cut back to further memorialization of the Fallen, getting a hint for a larger piece of world building we'll see later in this weirdly quiet arc. Well, in a minute. It's all details that a lesser anime might leave, since we're about to head out again for a much bigger journey, but it shows the impact of what they're doing, the impact of the hero's party too, the world that's being created, the religion, the culture, the beauty, and why it matters, both to the party now and why it's a little hard to move on from what the hero's party did. So we can move on to the next arc now. No, not yet. Instead, as the party goes to leave, there's more chatter, this time directly setting up the next major arc by letting them know they'll need a first-class mage to proceed any further. And that's a perfect segue. We could skip straight to that, just move straight onto the mage test. Instead, we linger again, first on the farewell, where we get some character insight. Frieren doesn't know modern mage standards, but Frieren quietly got her own certification before they left in the first place. Details and characterization that we don't need, but it's nice to have, is the difference between a collection of traits and a fully rounded, real-feeling character here. Already, we've gotten a better insight into the outcome of the last arc than a lot of manga would bother with. We've lingered in the consequences. Kind of like how the series is set in the consequences of the bigger adventure, we get to see the impact of Frieren's current actions on the world too. This is the Beyond Journey's End 40 Aura arc. It all rhymes, it works.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
We do skip from here, not to their destination though, their heading they just got, but to one of the nicest little sections. The party gets lost in a snowstorm. One where they'll spend 6 months essentially doing nothing. This whole section is cute. It's people huddling around the fire, scavenging, trying to keep healthy up against the weather, something to which there is no response but to wait. It's a sweet twist compared to the high stakes we saw in the last arc, and it's one of the most interesting both for characters and the world building. We get to see Stark sick in adverse weather, a small interaction on its surface, yeah, but in a short bit of time it actually achieves quite a lot. We get the idea that the winter claims more lives than demons, grounding the stakes. We can have these big battles with demons, but the snow is probably the biggest danger right now. It's not just something we're told, we get to see Stark actually struggle with it too. You know, that show not tell stuff that better videos like this are always talking about. Even if the battle to get warm isn't the flashiest, this is a better type of world building than just getting the line. Stark has to be warm to recover, so they head to a cabin Frieren thinks will be out there from her way out of date information. On the way in, we get these lovely bits of characterization from Fern and Frieren with their different responses to meeting this guy. Fern's entire preoccupation with what's decent in this section and being a pious girl is a bit of an insight into her. Once inside, things really do get interesting though, as we finally meet another elf, the first of the series. If you're dying to know more about them, then here we go. Except Frieren is a social incompetent, especially around elves, so to say we're here 6 months. Not a lot goes on, but out of what little conversation is had, Frieren's interactions with craft give us key insight into the religion of the world, but also how elves relate to each other. The stuff about the goddess needs to be gotten across to the audience. It's necessary world building, but it's doing it in a way that's showing rather than telling. Yeah, we get vague talks about the goddess, but for the characters, we learn just as much visually. In the time-lapse, we get these eating shots with a lot going on in like a brief second of their different approach to a blessing to food. Fern is pious, which is a sweet reminder that she was raised by a priest. We see over the period, Stark goes from eating early with Frieren to joining in on the blessing too. Even with Frieren and Kraft's interactions, we get to see elves actually meeting each other for the first time in the series. This is a minor conversation, but every word seems to accomplish something. It's a quiet episode, so the details, the few words, the non-verbal language has to pick up that slack. And in that, it's a feast. The goddess discussion in particular is difficult. Something we need to know about, think about, but Frieren prefers to do this kind of stuff without getting too exposition-y. So instead we get to meet a monk, an elf, someone who was a hero in his own right a long time ago. A proper character, not a walking explanation about the church, but arguably one of the most interesting and at this point mysterious members of the cast so far. Through their interactions we learn what we need to know about the goddess. Sure, the world building is done, but also the cast's approach to it. It's not just dumping information. Everything is in reference to building character. It's an adventure story about visiting heaven. Ultimately, we have to learn about how Frieren actually feels about these beliefs, and having her pretty openly talking about her value system is the most interesting way of showing that. She's not a non-believer exactly, I mean, Master's already been there, but she's not a priest. Obviously, they're the most relatable characters in Frieren. But Fern, on the other hand, is much more worried about Stark than the metaphysical. Although, as Kraft notes, she's a pious girl, she's not sneaking bites like Frieren. Being raised by a priest might give you that kind of belief system. But after time with Frieren, she seems to not place these beliefs at the forefront of her identity. It's just a fact of life. Stark might be sick, but his admiration of Kraft's body gives us something to work with him too. The expectations he puts on himself to train out of it. It sets us up nicely for his little poisoning and flashbacks in the next chapter too. Yeah, even the gag about him admiring the other man's body is set up. It's all masquerading as a joke or dialogue. He changes his behavior on over the months purely for those he's with. It's a quiet showcase of that insecurity and desire to please that he has. That'll pay off in the next story. This is all wrapped up in a really cute and nicely shot sequence of fun in the wilderness that takes 6 months. Yeah, nothing really happens here, but we get a unique insight to the characters, and it's a much more interesting way of building out the world without actually doing anything. 6 months of the journey reduced to just a few chats, but when the chats give us such a reevaluation of the entire purpose of the journey, it's a great example of that less is more storytelling, showing, not telling. In this brief glimpse, Kraft hints at his backstory, that his deeds may have been forgotten. So much early on is world building around the mythologizing of the party of heroes, how they're remembered in the world. Meeting Kraft shows us that the party's reputation won't last forever. The world will move on. Just like Flammy is now legend, another wave of friends could become forgotten to time outside of Frieren. She could end up like Kraft, simply waiting for her chance to be recognized again. It's a conversation which can inform the party of heroes' characters. We're a flashback of Himmel and some orphans present halfway through of it, but also the current journey and the potential future as Kraft is facing the long after of an adventure when even the descendants of those who knew you don't seem to be around anymore. All intercut with the nice nature, the quiet, the calm, priming you to actually think about what's going on. The quiet and calm makes these sequences more impactful. One conversation out of 6 months and using just illustrations between to show the characters' workings, to show you how the world functions, how time will affect the things that we love. That world is beautiful now. Those who understand you won't last forever. Maybe you'll meet them again in heaven. Ultimately, the conversation reframes Frieren's journey to see her old flame in the afterlife. It's an important thing, but really just small talk, waiting for the winter to pass. When they say goodbye, it's a small one. Anything bigger would be embarrassing. But it's these moments that have defined Frieren to me. More so than the main plot, it takes the biggest of topics and hides it in dribs and drabs of a hangout montage. It's like a magic trick. It develops everything without seeming like anything has really happened at all. It's too quiet to grab the attention. This story is one example, but Frieren has more to offer. The quiet moments have a specific role. This is still an adventure, but it's one that takes its time. We're almost being taken on the same kind of journey that Frieren and Fern go on themselves. We don't rush our way through it, chasing the end goal. We take our time, we check every route, and look for treasure, pretending to be something else. That can be a chest, but it can also be a sidetracked story set in a cabin that gives us unique insight. There's a lot of advantages to taking a slower journey, and in a nice meta way, that approach to life is regularly expounded upon in universe. We have Himmel summing up why all this is relevant to the story, why the slow route matters, and showing how much more entertaining a journey with the dull bits left in is. The quieter moments. To peek behind the curtain a little bit, the quiet of these scenes, the distance, the time it spans, the peace. It's a big part of how the magic trick of Frieren's world and character building is done. Hey, I'm Comfilo, and thanks for watching. If you like this kind of thing, there's a sub button which you can use if you want. I mean, you know how all this works. Alright, cheers.